Unused or inaccessible assets in video games will always be my favorite things ever. And of course, Super Mario 64 goes hand in hand with that. Years ago, prior to being a content creator myself, I was hooked on videos like the Mystery Goomba or Impossible Coins of Mario 64. I just come to a point in my life where I was grinding away at my day job, and I felt like I was losing touch with the childhood games and experiences I was once passionate about. Having videos like these pop up on my feed was the breath of fresh air I definitely needed, and it brought me right back in my mind to the games I truly loved. Fast forward to today, and I'm pretty fortunate to be able to now showcase weird gaming oddities myself. Which brings us to this moment, where we're going to be talking about something really strange. Super Mario 64 has always been known to hold an iconic star count of 120 total stars. Some people like to consider Bowser's final star in the game as star 121, but truthfully, it's not exactly the same as the other power stars in the game. But what absolutely blows my mind is that it's been over 2 decades since this game has come out, and I haven't seen a whole lot about what I'm about to discuss. Because deep within Super Mario 64, there is actually a true 121st star. And it isn't Bowser's ending star. One of the levels actually has 8 stars total, surprisingly. As always, there's a lot to cover, and I intend to explain the full extent of this mystery, so I hope you enjoy this bizarre look at one of Super Mario 64's most overlooked conundrums. Now, the concept of obtaining 121 total stars isn't anything really new. Since YouTube has been around, I've seen plenty of videos pop up that show off 121 stars in the thumbnail or title, or talk about a 121 star glitch and try to show off where the final star is. All of these are fake. I know that's a huge blanket statement to throw at them all, but majority of them are designed to deceive whoever is watching. Mind you, it's all in good fun, so it is what it is. Then of course, the other side of the spectrum is people who label their videos as 121 stars because they're counting Bowser's final star. I don't really count that one myself, but if we did, then that means there's 122. Outside of YouTube, the whole 121 star question has popped up across the web too. Regardless of where you looked over the years, the question still remains. Is there a 121st star, and how do you obtain it? Most of these spoofs I mentioned before are created by utilizing a GameShark code to boost a save file to 120 stars by default. This, in turn, leaves all stars still collectible in the world, and when collected, boosts Mario's star count above 120. So you snag 1 star, take a screenshot, and you're golden. Or you spawn a 100 coin star in an odd location and try to pass it off as something it's not. On top of all of this, we also need to roll out special circumstances where stars are merely cloned or duplicated. Cloning a star in your hand doesn't count because it is just a duplicate star you manipulated to appear. It's still the same star as before. Furthermore, utilizing the double star spawn in Peach's Secret Slide does spawn 2 duplicate stars, as outlined on the uncommentated Pan channel. But each star flips to the same switch for keeping track of if the star had been obtained. Only one of these stars can be collected too, but I digress. There is a true 121st star. Technically, but it's a bit of a doozy. So back when I revived my gameplay channel Swanky Zone, formerly known as SwankyBox Live, I spent a lot of time tinkering with the worlds of Super Mario 64 and messing with their properties. From building a bowling set in front of the castle, to making Bob-omb Battlefield brutally difficult with some hardcore enemy spam. Peak level design. But when I was in this challenge phase, constantly refreshing levels and changing their characteristics to reinvent the experience, I spent a lot of time examining each and every level. Honestly, it felt a lot like walking into vacant buildings and imagining what they could be. And one of the most interesting challenge areas I enjoyed were actually the slide levels in Mario. Peach's Secret Slide became Peach's Insanity Slide, where we had to take a box to the bottom or ride a shell down it. Once this level was completed, I set my eyes on additional slide levels for other challenges. Unfortunately, the secret mountainside didn't really work in my favor though, since it had a loading zone smack dab in the middle of it. So I found myself checking out Cool Mountain's icy interior. I always really liked the slides within levels because it felt like the entire interior of the outside world was a vast cave that featured some bizarre deadly slide. Now, Cool Mountain's interior of course has a slew of other mysteries within it, some of which I've covered already, like the mysterious disappearing penguin. But honestly, that one is really just the tip of the iceberg. No pun intended. You see, the weird thing about Cool Mountain's interior is that it by far has the most unused assets out of any level within the game. There's tons of things here we can't see because they no longer function properly, but they are certainly there. People like Celix, Darkspacer1, Fennessy, and others have documented these strange occurrences on the cutting room floor a while ago. But this past year when I made my penguin video, I was reminded of their existence while gathering footage, so I wanted to take a closer look. Because all in all, they help paint a picture about what the level may have once been like. Now at first glance, when you view these objects through a level editor, it would appear that scattered throughout the stage are tons of snowman's heads. This is because the objects just happen to default to this appearance in the editor. That's actually how I first noticed them myself. It's hard to miss tons of giant floating snowman heads. Also, it's kinda creepy too. Makes this whole thing feel more like a sacrificial pit. Anyways, if we take a look at the data associated with these objects, we will notice that this isn't the case. The editor can perceive some of these objects by their associated data in other levels, and thus labels them as such. Some still don't show up that way, but we can pair the model IDs and behaviors together to determine what they actually are. And I gotta say, there's quite a lot of them down here. There's a dead penguin at the bottom of the level, inaccessible spindrifts, a floating 3-star door. Yeah, that's an odd one. Not only would you never be able to use it, because it would need a floor to be utilized, but it wouldn't take you anywhere anyways. There's also a jumping fireball, an open cannon, and last but not least, the elusive Star of Legend. Now hold up, before hypothesizing about this star, we need to talk about some things. Part of the reason why this star has probably been overlooked for years is because it is mislabeled online. Or at least, it seems that way. Lots of people tend to document their discoveries on the cutting room floor, like I described before, and these assets had been successfully logged there. At that point, no one would probably question whether or not what was written there was true. But I was looking at the star myself in the game files, and I couldn't figure out why it wasn't labeled as a star online. According to the documentation online, it states the following about a star object found in the area. Quote, 2D animated stars, like those seen in pre-release footage. Behavior 0x2A10 is billboarded, and 0x2A20 includes a texture animation rate command, suggesting these used to make up the star behavior. This also happens to be near the early checkboard platform behavior. End quote. By reading this, I was thinking this may have to do with star particles within the game, like when Mario bonks his head or something. Labeling it as a 2D animated star immediately makes it come to mind. But the model data for the star I was looking at did not match up with this. But before diving into that a bit further, let me explain why I wasn't just visibly checking. Obviously, if I could just see a star floating, I would have been like, oh yeah, it's a star, duh. But because these objects on this map are being referenced the way they are, they don't load in at all. Some default to the snowman's head model because the model they're pointing to can't be called upon, and some just default to blank objects. Regardless, these objects can never be seen within the game. Swinging back over to the cutting room floor, it's explained that it seems like these objects are hard-coded to never appear. So they exist, but not in the sense of normal objects. It's like the power star itself is being loaded in through the category in which a tree or other special object would be placed, whereas a star would normally be in a different category. Upon digging deeper, it appears majority of these categories are put into the game as a way to save space between different object types. So back to what I was getting at. Seeing this explanation online not matching up with what I was seeing, I began taking some notes about the model values assigned to stars and their behavior values. All collectible stars in the game reference model 122, often coupled with the decimal behavior value of 15,932, which basically is the star's rotation behavior. This is different for when stars are spawned through actions like collecting all the red coins, or 100 coins. But the value of our star was set to 10,784, which is comparable to the behavior of coins on this map. Given this discrepancy in values, I decided to knock on the door of God himself. I sent a message over to Kaze Emanuar inquiring about the issue and the problems I was having with it, only to get an answer that made me really happy. So the object I was describing was indeed a star physically, as a model ID of 122 always is a star. Models 50 through 110, which make up for lots of different objects in the levels, tend to change out per level since all levels vary in terms of what they contain. Kaze hypothesized that perhaps these cutting room floor assumptions may have been made with old reference material, prior to the knowledge that is known about the game today. I was thinking the same thing since I remember seeing this on the page for years. Tracing it back, it appears the earliest page was archived online was February 17, 2016. The excerpt is there, but lacks the bottom part of the explanation and the photos. These were added a year or so later. This is the earliest that the page goes back to, at least under its current URL. However, if you cut off the second half of the URL, it's revealed that the normal Mario 64 splash page that asks you which version you want to check out is indeed the original cutting room floor page for the game. The Cool Mountain Slide 2D animated star info was logged as it currently is today in the month of June of 2012, meaning it could be very outdated. So much has been discovered in the game since then, as it truly has exploded with modding. So this star was probably overlooked for years from a discovery stance due to it not being properly logged online. In the gaming space, people often don't double check findings. Most people take discoveries at face value since they don't have the time to contest it or look deeper. But this leaves us with that original question. We know the star exists, at least physically within the code, but can Mario collect the game's 121st star? So first and foremost, let's talk about location. The location of the star is actually in the middle of the slide. It's at the absolute center of the Z coordinate at 0, and it's just off the side of one of the back parts of the slide. It's within bounds, as are a lot of the other left behind objects, besides those resting at the death barrier. This means the star can hypothetically be obtained in terms of Mario touching it without any use of crazy exploits. The greater issue is that the star doesn't spawn in the game though. The way it is currently loaded in means it never shows up. For the hell of it though, just to see what would happen, I switched the star's loading area from 0x43 to 0x42, so that when the game booted up this area, it would show. And to my surprise, there it was, glistening in all its glory above a bottomless pit. Now I wasn't too worried about the bottomless pit because Mario is capable of collecting stars on the death barrier. If I could grab the star, I'd basically be invincible as the star animation warped me out of the level. In order to line myself up for grabbing the star, I'd basically be jumping off the left side of the track in the middle of the first turn at the very top of the level. Doing so will allow me to pull Mario back enough, and with some course correction, I could obtain the Star of Legend. But something was wrong. Horribly, horribly wrong. As I lined up my character to grab the star, I didn't pick it up for some reason. Perhaps I missed it? So I tried again, and got the same result. That's also when I noticed something weird. The star wasn't rotating like a normal star at all. It was rotating diagonally. It's basically impossible to get a good look at the star at all because you can't stop to look anywhere on this track except for the top and bottom. So I moved the star to the top to check it out and entered the level again. Upon approaching it, the star was indeed rotating incorrectly. And unfortunately, regardless of what I did, the star was not obtainable at all. Mario would just pass through the object each and every time. So the 121st star is indeed real in terms of developers putting it there. But because of the way it was implemented and hidden, the behavior set to the star prevents it from functioning as a collectible. If the behavior was different and the star could be spawned through a different way of loading, like other similar objects, then Mario would be able to touch the star, fall into the void, and do his star dance on the death barrier, securing us the true 121st star in Super Mario 64. But because there are barriers in place, that is looking a lot less likely. I'm not saying collecting the star is impossible. People have done incredibly mind-blowing things in the game, but at this point, they essentially have to figure out a way to change the data surrounding the star without modifying the game externally. People have been doing crazy stuff like that in Ocarina of Time, so I truly wonder if it would be possible. My hunch is no, but I've been wrong before. And with that, if you're new here and enjoyed this documentary, subscribe for more content to come. Thanks for watching, guys and gals, and until my next video, cheers.